Alright, making a response video to a Pyrrho and ThouArtThat conversation. Yeah. I mean, it just has me thinking about, there's no substance to really argue with. It's reasonable, but just the fact that this is how bad it is. I mean, this is how situation hopeless but not desperate or something. I mean, desperate but not hopeless. I mean, it's bad that this is what intelligent people are doing to their brains. I mean, it's like, whoa. I wouldn't put that in there. You're just, I don't know how to describe it, but it just makes it just apparent how daunting the task is to do something like have reasonable conversation on Earth. Just really difficult. So anyway, I'll just play the ending because it really has more substance than the whole rest of the video. So anyway, Pyrrho just starts off with a monologue about his drinking shit again, blah 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 blah, and if that was the subject of their conversation. But he's all manic now anyway. He's just, he's made like 4 hours of videos yesterday, plus the 6 hours with DasSpook. Man, it's just saying the same shit over and over and over and over again. You're just like, wow, yeah, I've already heard that. Anyway, so I just thought it was kind of revealing that he hasn't, so he's been making videos, but he hasn't even watched the conversation he had with DasSpook. And you're just saying, man, could you say fuck you, DasSpook, any louder? So he has a 6-hour conversation with somebody, 4 hours of which, or at least 3, he doesn't remember. And he just assumes DasSpook said nothing useful. I mean, nothing interesting enough for him to feel even compelled to watch the conversation. And, not that I wouldn't feel or have that impression, but at least I'm honest and I go into the conversation with that opinion that you're not going to impress me. But yeah, I mean, it just validates that Pyrrho is just so disconnected from even the people he's talking to. He's just, he's got this, he is glued to this, some schema of reality. And instead of showing us any real rails or any real mechanics to this thing so he could say, oh, well, that's full of shit, he just veils it in these ambiguous, science says so, or some kind of appeal to, there's lots of people talking bullshit. So some kind of excuse making that has nothing to do with, well, I can't dissect what you won't describe or define. I mean, 1 minute spiritual is, picking a scab, and the next minute it's, ooh, I had a good fart. The next minute it's, I felt totally connected to her blonde, beautiful pussy. I mean, what is this crap? Yeah, I can't have a conversation about what spiritual means in the context of you keep moving the target all over the place. So anyway, enough of that. Look, spirituality is mush. It's a cause of delusional effects. Can I use that language? All this talk as if philosophy should have something to do with this feeling mechanism that we have, which we know are our intuition, which is incredibly bigoted, incredibly subjectively conditioned through our life experience, our familiarities, our comforts. I mean, to use this as a foundation for philosophical conversation is just forget the word philosophy. Now, it doesn't mean anything. It's just going to be, I like Tonka toys and she likes Barbie dolls. Fuck it. Anyway, it's childish. Alright, at one point Matt called doing philosophy, a prayer. No, I don't think that's what it is. I think what it is rational description of reality, and if you're not doing that, then forget it. I mean, I don't think you should be allowed to call it philosophy. I mean, if you're really not trying to accurately describe reality, then, come on. Go away. The universe is far stranger than materialists will lead you to imagine. I mean, they really don't want you to imagine it anyway. They want to try to draw you a picture, so you don't even have to imagine. That's what I think a real scientist or a materialist will try to do. But again, it's far stranger. He knows because he's looked into the Stranger cycle. The Strangifier. He's seen the light because he went on the special light seeing tour, and so he can tell us how strange it is. From his expert position as a drug user. Yeah, okay, great. Not. Alright. So again, I just wrote down philosophy versus psychology. These guys are just going to say, oh, there's no conflict here. We can just talk about what gets our dick hard and call that philosophy. And I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Not dangerous. Well, at one point they do concede it's dangerous, so I wrote the not dangerous part earlier in their conversation. But, I mean, not to concede that playing with words like spirituality and prayer in a conversation about let's describe reality in the context of thousands of years of myopic, just Borgish destruction of human intelligence through religion, to not concede that these religious words put into these modern conversations can only be like pouring acid on the paper. I mean, don't write the book because you're just pouring acid on it. You're vomiting on it by using this language. So again, quantum systems, Pyrrho, everything is made out of quantum. These guys are just, it's all quantum now, so it's I'm going to call them like quantum truthers or something. Evolution's relationship to quantum mechanics. I would like to know what you think the relationship is. Little drops of experience in every quantum event. Isn't that just pretty? Too precious. Isn't that just too precious? There's experience in the quantum events. Alright, so again, it says feelings are philosophy is what this all comes down to. Thermometer example. Oh, yeah, Pyrrho keeps using this, and now even Matt's endorsing it. So Pyrrho's at least in 3 videos, right? He's pointed out that somehow this is a big, important fact, that when you put a thermometer into a vessel, the thermometer fucks up the thermodynamics and exchanges information. Well, if you put a thermometer in that's exactly the same temperature as the vessel, then it won't. If you put a thermometer in that's hotter than the vessel, then it will add, energy to the vessel. So, wow, this is a brilliant realization. And again, this is, who's denying that every observation, every relationship, to have a relationship is to have influence, is to create interaction, is influence. You can't relate to something. You can't observe it, you can't see it, you can't know it, you can't understand it, you can't do any of these things without relating to it. And so you have to actually contact, exchanges have to take place between you. And we know how that happens. And it happens through photons. The universe is running, 99.99999% of the universe is running on interactions between photons and electrons. That's what the universe is doing. Shit. Einstein would go. Let's see, I wonder what I meant by that. Well, anyway, yeah, it wouldn't go. Yeah. So Pyrrho, kind of dissed Einstein, like he didn't have any career for the last 30 years of his life because he wouldn't jump on the phantasmagorical, silly notions. He wouldn't become a non-determinist, like the rest of the scientists. So they're claiming that most scientists, most physicists are non-determinists, which I don't think they can prove. And if it's true, it's just a foul, smelly commentary on just how bad the education system is, and just how we've allowed silly people to become academics. Anyway, I mean, it just doesn't have any credibility. This is incredible nonsense. All right, so yeah, so obviously observation requires disturbance of a system. There's no, the clock stoppers aren't sitting there, I mean, they're in perfect agreement with the idea that but they're taking this to something like again, this isn't the argument even in quantum theory about whether or not you can observe something without disturbing it. They're claiming that even if you didn't disturb it, you can't observe it. That it doesn't have a position. So they're, I don't even know why they're using this terminology, because it's an argument from my case, not their case. My case is that whatever phenomenon you're seeing is a consequence of disturbance, is a consequence of relationship. They're the ones claiming, no, it has its own, it's doing its own thing, it's little wacky thing, and even if you could know what it was doing, you wouldn't be able to know what it's doing. It's a wacky thing. Anyway, consciousness is a spiritual experience. What? I don't know what that was, but anyway, well, let's play the last 5 minutes of this and just see if we can get somewhere. But yeah, I think, I mean, I'm coming to the conclusion that this really does have to be set up in some sort of, okay, I mean, it would be really good if when we had these conversations, made these videos, you could force replies out of people, and you could force some understanding of where exactly are you disagreeing. I mean, do you believe this mumbo jumbo, and do you believe in a material universe run by material forces that have expression, the fact that the moon circles the earth for billions of years, that certain things are just incredibly reliable and predictable, and do you believe in something else? Do you believe the universe is not a clockwork, it's made out of there's some other thing that's the inspiration for it, that there's some other universe that made our universe, and then some other universe made that universe? I mean, do you buy into some God regression, and that somehow it's all made out of some thing sitting on a toilet somewhere going, oh, I wish there was a universe? I mean, do you accept that it has a physical dynamic, or don't you? Do you believe in this material universe having energy and that converts into matter, or don't you? I mean, can we even start there? I don't know, what the starting point is, but these people obviously have no understanding of anything scientific.
Bunch of hooey that's just a fad.
Yeah. Okay, so he's claiming that we think quantum mechanics is just a fad. No, your interpretation is a fad. Yes, that's true. Okay, you're silly. The people who lied, right? I mean, it is a lie, right? The physicist. I remember Feynman ever talking about, oh, when we're watching the photon, if we don't record the information, if we have the cameras on but we don't record the information, we get a different result. So the photons can read our minds. Feynman didn't buy that. We know that experiment hasn't been redone, has it? That one hasn't been put on TV, has it? No, because it's a pile of shit. So you're going to claim that there's no exaggerations, spectral, spiral, holographic, blah blah blah. All this speculation, all this talk isn't full of a lot of contradiction and mumbo jumbo. That you're going to say that it's all not fad, that 99.99% of it's probably fad, that it's almost just like religion, that if you have 17,000 varieties of the story that contradict with each other, that none of those stories are probably true? You don't get it? That, yeah, most of it has to be a fad because they're contradicting each other? Shit.
Well, I mean, I can understand why, Nick and Gary would take a basically nihilistic perspective on.
I'm not a nihilist, you fucking cunt. I mean, we've been over this. Alright, Nick, you want to call him a nihilist, go ahead. Yeah, he doesn't think human sentience has any worth or meaning. Fine, okay? Go mock Nick as a nihilist. But I've only made a huge effort to say I'm not a nihilist, quite obviously, you little weasel. I give a fuck a lot about the welfare of sentient beings. I'm claiming you're basically a Mangala lunatic, okay? That you're valuing its animation rather than its feelings and its welfare, and that you think it's in its best interest to suffer, because it's going to, there's some sort of reclamation for the suffering, because nature made it, it must be good. That's your fucking babble, crazy fuck. But don't call me a nihilist.
Existence, because things are pretty fucked up right now, and they're.
Yeah, well, again, that doesn't have anything to do with nihilism either. So you can't really have things being pretty fucked up if you're a nihilist. If you're a nihilist, there is no fucked up. So, can't, use some of these words consistent with the common definition. You don't mean nihilist then. You don't mean that I'm not recognizing something as having value and therefore it can have a fucked up condition. Only systems that have no value could have a fucked up condition.
Thrown in the towel, and they're saying, fuck it.
Yeah, I'm not throwing in any fucking towel, so that's more bullshit. You don't want to concede reality. Okay, fine. You don't want to admit that planet Earth is a parasite engine. Oh, shit. So it's throwing in the towel to just admit the truth it's a parasite engine and to have some sort of rational conversation about whether parasite is a great idea. Shit. You want to keep fighting what? The endless war. Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to throw in the towel on gladiator war. I want to throw the fucking towel of this fails, alright, with this fails written on it. I want to throw the towel into the arena and say, yeah, okay, if this is what we're about, fuck it. And it's really what we're about, Matt. And your delusions of reconstruction and spiritual floatings through the universe wanking. It's just that. It's just delusions.
The only thing I want to push back on with them is that don't try to use scientific knowledge as your.
No, I would just turn that right back on you. Don't try to do this, because if you try to have this conversation, and I'm gonna have to, well, again, I have to bribe people, I suppose. But yeah, let's scrutinize your the integrity of your scientific theories, your scientific knowledge. Let's test it and see how deep it goes. All right, let's see what veracity it has, because I'm calling motherfucking bullshit. Alright, you have no right to tell me anything about science, you little weasel. I mean, fuck you. I mean, it's just bullshit. I mean, I'll kick your ass on any fucking scientific subject.
Premise, as if it somehow supports your determinism.
Yeah, that's right. All the material experiments. Every time we went to go find any of these ghosts or any of this magical powers or any of this coincidence powers, or anytime you have a controlled experiment and you say, is human intuition valuable? It fails. So yeah, sure. All the science says, no, we're determined by the undeterminability. The ungod God is making us do it. It's not cause and effect. Yeah, fuck you.
Don't try to talk about evolution as though it supports your rat race understanding. I mean.
Okay, so it's not a rat race understanding. I mean, it's not a rat race reality. It's not 4 billion years of organisms maliciously coming up with ways to fuck each other over for success and victory for their prodigy. I was thinking about this yesterday because I was thinking about. Well, I often think about penis. Yeah, people are always, I did have that weird video, and some asshole says something. I go, why does blah 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 give you a boner? And it's like, whoa, better too many than too few, fucker. I mean, you know, these people are just so fucking weird, in my opinion. Like they're somehow a bad one. But anyway, separate subject. But anyway, I was thinking of fish. You know, when I was thinking the whole evolution thing, and you're thinking about like the, you know, going from being spawning fish, which is like, that's not a very good kind of sex, right? I mean, you go through all this trouble, your abdomen basically explodes, and you die. That doesn't sound like a great idea. But that's what nature made. That's the more primitive fish. And then the fish, you know, you can just imagine in your head that this sneaky part, like there's fish that spawn collectively, you know, as a group, like an orgy. And, you know, a lot of them. These are all primitive fish that usually do this. And, you know, what was figured out was, you know, when you wanted to get your sperm, you know, your half of the equation, on the eggs as quickly as possible. You know, you want to be the first. You know, as the male, that would be the way to go, is to, you know, somehow get there first, was kind of important. And you can just imagine now that this is the origins of the penis, was that it was just a way to get there first. I mean, you know, first you create a hose, maybe that works, and then you impale the female. You get to the eggs while they're still in her. You know, as a way of getting there first. And, you know, and I'm not saying this is how it happened evolutionary. I'm just saying this is what I imagined as I imagined the strategy. So, I mean, some of this dissection you can do just by logic, you know, and inference. But I'm just saying, I'm not making a claim about actual evolution. I'm just saying that's what it got me thinking about. And then I was thinking about the eggs themselves and this transition from giving birth to live babies versus eggs, and how even modern organisms have chosen both methods, you know, have been successful. But you're thinking, well, why wouldn't you just go, the egg was first, right? So you're saying, well, why wouldn't you just stay with the egg? Well, what wasn't first, it could have been first like 500 million years ago, you know, the first land organism, kind of thing. But I'm just saying, you know, what came first in the evolution? Obviously I would think live birth would be first, but it's technically not a very complex organism you're making. But anyway, so the whole idea, this idea that organisms have gone back and forth, I'm just saying organisms that have egg layers in their history, have live birth in their history, have egg laying, you know, it's a, you know, they have both in their history. And it's just like, well, why would a female not gestate? And one could argue that the reason why is that they weren't likely to live, that it was actually beneficial to the eggs to be, you know, the young to be ejected as soon as possible, because the mother's mortality was so attrition, the attrition was so high, she was likely to be killed while pregnant. And that's that, you know. So anyway, so when this guy says don't think evolution is shit, you know, no, there's no evidence not to think evolution is absolutely horrific. It has no compassion, no love, no care, no nurture, no any of this stuff. It's just maliciously, I mean, it's, you know, it's just horrid. Not malicious is the wrong word. See, I mean, you know, all our language has to do with some sort of volition act, and obviously nature doesn't have any volition, you know, to give emphasis, because that makes something that much horrible, you know, that much worse, that somebody was, you know, not just negligent, but, you know, deliberate in their causing of harm. So, I mean, it's a word of emphasis, so I'm trying to come up with a word to describe just how insidious, okay, use that one, the nature of nature is, in that it has absolutely no capacity to value the meaning. We can, as little bits of it, little teeny piece of evolution can. The the mechanism can't. And yet these people will talk to you about a spiritual universe. You know, where's the spirit in that? 4 billion years, nothing cared. Nothing could care. 4 billion years of Holocaust after Holocaust after Holocaust after Holocaust, and nobody's shedding a tear. And that's spiritual. That's something to get all gooey and spiritual about. Fuck.
Certainly, science has forced the human being to sort of check some of the more self-congratulatory ideas we used to have about ourselves, but
that's almost laughable, right? I mean, these guys are totally out of control in terms of self-gratifying, human uplifting. They're saying that their silly contemplations of the universe or a rainbow is somehow so special that it justifies 4 billion years of organisms eating each other.
I think there's far more mystery and creativity in the universe that science has revealed to us than either Gary or Nick are willing to admit.
Creativity, so does that even mean anything? Where do I, again, what am I supposed to admit? I almost want to replay that because I'm like, what did he just say? Oh, that's right, probably nothing.
The more self-congratulatory ideas we used to have about ourselves, but I think there's far more mystery and creativity in the universe that science has revealed to us than.
Okay, science has revealed the mystery. Okay, so that's what I'm not admitting. I'm not admitting the mystery that science has revealed. We went to the moon, Matt. What's the mystery? What mystery do we find on the moon? Oh, quantum sparkly dust. No, we didn't find any of that. Alien worm quantum dust. No, we didn't find any quantum worms either. I don't know. Well, I don't know the mysteries.
Then either Gary or Nick are willing to admit, and
that's just such well, obviously it's an insult, but I mean I can just insult you back. So I mean, you want to say I'm ignorant of the mysteries, fine. To say I won't admit the mysteries, oh fuck you, fuck you.
So long as that creativity is observable all around us, there's.
Okay, the creativity is observable all around us. Creativity in what sense? You mean that we figure out how to put one brick on top of another brick on top of another brick. We figure out an arch, and that you could support things, through just mechanical material science, that this will work as structure. Yeah, we figured out the force of gravity, and we figured out weather corrosion, we figured out how to make products, put paint on them, make plastic out of oil, figured out lots of stuff. And that creativity is somehow mystery creativity. I look at it and I see 10,000 years of hard work and experimentation to figure this stuff out. Whatever. Again, and the mystery is, oh no, the game is the quantum game.
No reason we shouldn't believe that human beings possess it as well.
Human beings possess what? What do we possess? We are being controlled by the magic blah blah force, the ungod God, the not material thing. We're being controlled by the not material thing, and that's what makes us do things. The not material influencing influencer that there's no evidence of. I mean, we know why people do stuff. Some guy does something totally wacky, and then we dissect his brain. We say, look, there's a tumor in his brain. I mean, get real. That's the usual.
So,
Well, that's good. Well, when we talk again, maybe that'd be a good thing to remember to start up with, because it's sort of also this idea of spirit as what is that thing that shows us that we see it's living, so it has the animus and just the sense of it's breathing, you know, and it can die and stop breathing, and that's just an indicator, obviously, but that's, you know, the word comes because it...
Oh, whatever. So, I mean, this is all just baby talk about life, right? I mean, this isn't a rational conversation when you start talking about life being breathing. There's lots of organisms that don't breathe. So, yeah, you know, and this whole idea of what life is, right? We know that most life on Earth doesn't have a brain, doesn't have neurology, isn't doing any of this complex reflexive reactions. They're doing simple mechanical reflexes, chemical reflexes, and that's all they're doing. And that's a fact. But no, they'll make up crap. They'll make up decisions that they're making. And they'll ignore the science, when the scientists study it, and they say, look, it's doing 4 things, and it's doing these 4 things because chemical transfers between these parts of its body. And they'll just deny that. I mean, they'll deny the fact that we've already dissected it, and we've already figured out what it's doing, and why it looks one way, but it's actually another way. We know why. Look, if I fill a balloon with helium and I let it go into the atmosphere, it's going to go bouncy, bouncy, flowy, flowy. And I could make up some kind of bullshit theory about how it's full of excitement and it's all happy and it's having a wonderful trip. And I could just make up a lie, right? If somebody's ignorant, I could tell them a lie and they could believe it. But if they have some knowledge of the atmosphere, they know that no, it's just inversion, temperature inversion layers, and these are all mechanical responses created by physical circumstances, and there is no bouncy, bouncy balloon. I mean, there's no balloon having an experience. Just isn't.
It's an indicator for this particular quality of something that also can find meaning, and I'd like to go there because, see, my instinct is to go, well, yeah, especially in quantum mechanics, because, you know, the scientists today could be wrong, but the consensus is clear.
All right, the consensus is clear, is what he's saying, right? And we haven't even got you know, when physicists are polled, they're in 3 different camps, you know, Heisenberg, well, whatever the interpretations are. So, yeah, they don't even agree. And so he's saying there's a consensus when they don't agree. I mean, when their disagreement is overt and grotesque, he's saying there's consensus.
Yeah.
There's ontological reality to these waves that map to probability.
There's ontological reality to these waves that map to probability. So again, he's claiming the photon is actually a wave thing, that the fact that a photon behaves certain ways, photons, because guess what, this isn't about photon, it's about photons, these effects. You know, it's just, you know, is there any he's making an appeal to scientific credibility that, in my opinion, he has to prove if he's going to make it. I guess I'll just leave it there. Show me the proof that this is what scientists say. I mean, you know, well, whatever.
The die is not a 7 until, well, at least if the die is a quantum mechanical, you know, an atom, if it's an electron in an orbital, it does not decide. It is not decided what it is until it hits the screen. And that is the consensus, and the scientists could be wrong.
Yeah, it's not the consensus, and now he's going to say the scientists could be wrong. Well, they couldn't be wrong if they had something called evidence. And that's what's lacking here, is evidence for these theories. Alright, these theories of what's causing an effect. We have an effect. We have a phenomenon, like the balloon weaving in the atmosphere. And the truth is that once you can do experiments, you can figure out that there is an atmosphere, and that the atmosphere has different temperatures, and that there's wind blowing in the atmosphere, and there's a dynamic to the atmosphere. And where in quantum physics has that been done? They don't have they call it the standard model, but it's not a standard yet. Okay, it isn't coherent to all the facts. And so there's you know, they're going to the one place, right, that has that are the smallest things in the universe. They're going there to find their mystery. Now, isn't that just convenient, right? The things we can't see is the place they say the mystery lives. It just seems like, wow, that's a huge coincidence, isn't it? Okay, they're not claiming moon powers or some big thing that we could actually test. No, they're claiming the mystery and the spiritual and the magic exists in the very place we can't look. So it's just, it seems very convenient that their ghosts always have an excuse. You know, you can't use your psychic power to win the lottery because it's the rules of psychic powers. I mean, catch 22. Catch 22 all the way down. Yeah, that's what it is, all the way down. Human desperation, catch 22 all the way down. Just keep writing catches to your bullshit.
Wrong, but they shouldn't be able to get away with this idea that, you know, because they agree with Newton.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get away with it. I'm challenging you to a debate on this subject anytime, motherfucker. Okay, some sort of video exchange explaining how you prove your crap. Prove it. Prove it. Quit citing authorities and actually prove something with a piece of real evidence that you can demonstrate isn't a, you know, one of those things where they find water with a stick. Alright? Quit fucking around with your little pseudoscience magic devices and show me something fucking hard evidence of your bullshit.
You know, that somehow that's okay, because this is 100 years of just that, just that consensus.
Yeah, it's not a consensus, but here comes the Einstein thing. This will be great.
Well, I mean, anyway, the start of the consensus was 100 years ago, pretty much. So.
Last thing I just want to say is that I wouldn't necessarily...
Yeah, well, obviously it wasn't a consensus 100 years ago. The Bohr-Einstein argument should continue.
And I'm not saying you're doing this necessarily, but we'll have to get into it more. I wouldn't want to tie spirituality to one particular scientific paradigm.
Right, so quantum is only one of the magical forces. Yeah, that's what he's just said. Quantum is only one of the magical forces.
Because if you know anything about science, it's going to change tomorrow.
Right, so this is the to be serious loop-de-loo. You know, that, yeah, tomorrow we're going to figure out we didn't really go to the moon with any kind of legitimate science, that gravity isn't this, and that's and that, and we didn't do this, and so he's going to come up with some. Tomorrow's science is going to be that dinosaurs were really alien invaders, blah, 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 blah.
You know, science is an open-ended process of inquiry, and what is true today will be considered, quantum theory will be the phlogiston.
Right. Quantum theory will be Frankenstein. Well, I think it's going quantum mechanics, okay, not quantum theory. There is no quantum theory. There's a bunch of silly stories about magical balloons, but there's no quantum theory. There's quantum mechanics, and quantum mechanics merely describes the phenomenon of interaction between photons and electrons, and,
of the 22nd century, So...
Yes.
We have to acknowledge that open-endedness, and instead of tying spirituality to the spooky, wave-like nature of matter as we understand it now, I'd want to say that spirituality has to do not with what there is in the world, not with any particular phenomenon or system that we can, distinguish and understand and study in the world, but it's not about, spirituality isn't about what there is, it's the fact that there is anything.
Alright, there you go. The fact that there is anything. So again, we're back to, well, gee, it couldn't possibly exist if it was all fucked up. So, yeah, it has to be spirituality all the way down. God made God, 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 until you go all the way around in a circle and you're back at God again. So somehow God made God. Yeah, okay.
So just stepping back for a moment from all the particular things that make up our experience and becoming aware of the fact that we are experiencing. That, I think, is the place where wonder and
wonder, Yeah, no, we shouldn't just concede, okay, we experience. Why do we experience? Oh, that's right, because we've been caught up in a toolkit enhancement project for 4 billion years, and we experience because it's conducive to us fighting in a rat race to hide some eggs. That's the reality, Matt, and it ain't going to change in a zillion years or a trillion years.
Feeling of, the spiritual feeling starts to emerge. So it's not anything in particular that we can place our finger on, or anything
Oh, isn't that convenient?
that we can even coherently describe. But we try to get at it poetically.
Yeah, happy balloon. There we go. We try to get at poetically. That's really when philosophy gets really good, is when you start adding poetry.
I think it has to do with that sort of, it's the unacknowledged background of everything that we're...
The unacknowledged background, the undescribed, the unevidenced, the anything. I just say so because it makes my whole hoodie thing, mystical, magical man scenario work. I mean, I can't be a Jedi unless I make up fucking goddamn Darth Vader and the Force and all that shit. So I have to make up that crap or I can't be a Jedi.
Conscious of. It's what's on the fringes, just outside the horizon of our rational experience.
Yes, outside the horizon of our rational experience is all kinds of wonderful irrational magic. Says me.
And we can feel it, but we can't quite...
Yes, you feel it, the Force. I can feel the Force. The Force is with me. I can feel past the horizon and touch the irrational mumbo jumbo. Ooh. No, I can't.
Well, I think I have an approach to answering that question, so let's save that, though. I think.
Oh, yeah, you have an approach. I'm sure you have an approach of bibble, babble, mush, mush, and nonsense. Thank you very much. Anyway, enough of this crap. Anyway. I just can't believe that, I keep saying that I didn't think I'd get on the internet and then have to have a conversation where I had to explain to people that, suffering sucks. No way I have to explain that. And now 8 years into this, and you're just saying, this is really hopeless, right? I mean, these people, they're not dumb enough to talk this stupid. So obviously there's something else running these people, that just is a mechanism of they need it so badly that it just isn't going to matter what you say. And as Pyrrho demonstrates, he doesn't listen to what anybody else says. He doesn't care what they have to say. He's already laid his track, and he sees the track, and even though there's no evidence for the track, he's just going to keep talking like the track is there and telling us about the track. So fine, but I can't argue your Bugs Bunny theory, your Bugs Bunny train to Daffy Duck Town. Go ahead, ride your train, play your game. You're not meeting the minimum standards of philosophical conversation, though, because you have to have some evidence for this, some rational argument to go with it, and you don't have any. Anyway, just, people are all fucking nuts, hopelessly crazy, deluded. Anyway, just have to go back to step 1, step 2. So I have to figure out what statements are just unresolvable. I mean, if you insist on creating mysteries, yeah, I can't do anything with that. I mean, if every time things get tough, you're going to just pop up the Joker mystery card, then you can't have a philosophical conversation. I have to have some way to say, no, you've got to be confined in this reality, these set of facts. And if you're going to keep using your Joker quantum card to evade where the evidence points when you don't like where the evidence points, you just can't play the game that way. There's no game to play if you have, you're playing Monopoly and you got a bunch of Monopoly money in your pockets and you got a bunch of, get out of jail free cards, and you could just keep throwing this shit into the game. There's no game then. Anyway. Till next time.